the type of problems we could solve with machine learning is so vast that it has the potential of reshaping the computer industry altogether, and which prompted us to re-engineer the entire computing stack, which is where DGX came from, and this little baby DGX sitting here. All of this came from that observation that we ought to reinvent the entire computing stack layer by layer by layer. Computers, after 65 years since IBM System 360 introduced modern general purpose computing, we've reinvented computing as we know it. But the next 10 years is going to be the application science of AI, the fundamental science versus the application science. And so the applied research, the application side of AI now becomes, how can I apply AI to digital biology? How can I apply AI to climate technology? How can I apply AI to agriculture, to fishery, to robotics, to transportation, optimizing logistics? How can I apply AI to, teaching? How do I apply AI to, podcasting, right? And so everything that moves will be robotic someday, and it will be soon. The idea that we'll be pushing around a lawnmower is already kind of silly. Maybe people do it because it's fun, but there's no need to. And every car is going to be robotic. Humanoid robots, the technology necessary to make it possible is just around the corner. And so everything that moves will be robotic. And they'll learn how to be a robot in Omniverse Cosmos, and will generate all these physically plausible futures, and the robots will learn from them, and then they'll come into the physical world, and it's exactly the same. A future where you're just surrounded by robots is for certain, and I'm just excited about having my own R2-D2. And of course, R2-D2 wouldn't be quite the can that it is and roll around. It'll be a R2-D2. Yeah, it'll probably be a different physical embodiment, but it's always R2. So my R2 is going to go around with me. Sometimes it's in my smart glasses, sometimes it's in my phone, sometimes it's in my PC, it's in my car. So R2 is with me all the time, including when I get home, where I left a physical version of R2, and whatever that version happens to be, we'll interact with R2. And so I think the idea that we'll have our own R2-D2 for our entire life, and it grows up with us, that's a certainty now. Yeah, we're going to be right on robotics, and
this is my question.
Yeah, we're going to be right on Omniverse. The latest bet, of course, we just described at the CES, and I'm very, very proud of it, and I'm very excited about it, is the fusion of Omniverse and Cosmos, so that we have this new type of generative world generation system, this multiverse generation system. I think that's going to be profoundly important in the future of robotics and physical systems. Of course, the work that we're doing with humanoid robots, developing the tooling systems and the training systems and the human demonstration systems and all of this stuff that you've already mentioned, we're just seeing the beginnings of that work, and I think the next 5 years are going to be very interesting in the world of humanoid robotics. Of course, the work that we're doing in digital biology, so that we can understand the language of molecules and understand the language of cells, and just as we understand the language of physics and the physical world, we'd like to understand the language of the human body and understand the language of biology. And so if we can learn that and we can predict it, then all of a sudden our ability to have a digital twin of the human is plausible. And so I'm very excited about that work. I love the work that we're doing in climate science, and be able to, from weather predictions, understand and predict the high resolution regional climates, the weather patterns within a kilometer above your head, that we can somehow predict that with great accuracy. Its implications is really quite profound. And so the number of things that we're working on is really cool. We're fortunate that we've created this instrument that is a time machine, and we need time machines in all of these areas that we just talked about.
The good future of AI is one of immense prosperity
where there is an age of abundance, no shortage of goods and services. Everyone can have whatever they want, except for things we artificially define to be scarce, like some special artwork. But anything that is a manufactured good or provided service will, I think, with the advent of AI plus robotics, that the cost of goods and services will trend to zero. Like, I'm not saying it'll be actually zero, but everyone will be able to have anything they want. That's the good future, of course. And in my view, that's probably 80% likely. So look on the bright side. Only 20% probably annihilation. It's nothing.
Is the 20% like, what does that look like?
No, man. I mean, frankly, I do have to go engage in some degree of deliberate suspension of disbelief with respect to AI in order to sleep well. And even then, because I think the actual issue, the most likely issue is like, well, how do we find meaning in a world where AI can do everything we can do, but better? That is perhaps the bigger challenge. Although, at this point, I know more and more people who are retired, and they seem to enjoy that life. So, but I think that maybe there'll be some crisis of meaning, because the computer can do everything you can do, but better. So maybe that'll be a challenge. But really, you need the sort of end effectors. You need the autonomous cars, and you need the sort of humanoid robots or general purpose robots. But once you have general purpose humanoid robots and autonomous vehicles, you can build anything. And I think there's no actual limit to the size of the economy. I mean, there's obviously the massive Earth, like that will be one limit. But the economy is really just the average productivity per person times number of people. That's the economy. And if you've got humanoid robots that can do, where there's no real limit on the number of humanoid robots, and they can operate very intelligently, then there's no actual limit to the economy. There's no meaningful limit to the economy.
These data centers could consume today maybe 100 megawatts, and in the future it'll probably be several, 10 times, 20 times more than that. It doesn't have to necessarily be built in one place, but the amount of data that we're going to train it with, and these AI models are going to use synthetic data. For example, 2 AI models are going to be talking to each other, just like the two of us are. Right. And just through conversation, through Q&A, we're going to make each other smarter. And so future AI models are going to rely on other AI models to learn. And you could use AI models to curate the data so that future AI use an AI to teach another AI. And so there's a lot of different ways that AI will learn in the future, but nonetheless, it's going to take energy to do so. The important thing to realize about AI is that it doesn't, using artificial intelligence to solve problems will consume less energy than using calculation to solve problems. Right. Okay. And so that's number one. Number two, we use artificial intelligence now in the smart grid. Our power grid is not smart, but we can make it smart. Right. And so we work with a company called Yili Data and PG&E to create an AI computer, and we put it integrated into the smart grid. The goal is with AI, with intelligence in a grid, you could figure out how to, for example, integrate sustainable energy into it. That sustainable energy could be from solar, it could be the battery sitting in your car. During power surges or outages, it could recognize that there's a weakness in a grid and figure out where the various distributed energy sources are to keep the grid going. Maybe you could predict very subtle signals of when the grid is about to fail and send people out for predictive maintenance. Yeah. The one thing that is going to change is the amount of software programming that we do, the actual programming that we do will reduce. Or another way of saying it is the way we program computers will change.
Because you're just going to ask the computer to do it.
Exactly. We're going to describe very clearly what we want the computer to help us do,
Right.
and the computer will do it for us. And so the way that we would design chips in the future will be describing probably the specifications of the chip, which is telling somebody what you want is oftentimes where the genius is.
Right.
Yeah, where the genius is. Yeah, doing the actual skill, of course, there's great craft and great dedication but to be able to explain a future that you would like to create, and have AIs that help you go do that is pretty terrific. And so, my prediction is that the first thing companies like ourselves will do is use artificial intelligence to improve our productivity. That's what we've done. We've got AIs all over our companies designing our chips, writing our software, helping us debug things, help us do verification. We're starting to work on using it for marketing and customer support and things like that. And so number one, help us be more productive. When a company becomes more productive, they make more money. When they make more money, they hire more people. And so these computers are off working on things, designing chips, writing software, optimizing things, going through plans, evaluating all the various plans that we have and trying to figure out which one is the best to come back and recommend it to us. And so the exploration of the design space, exploration of the optimization space is really, really large, and we want these AIs to go explore them, to go look for new scientific discovery, for example. And so it's off in these machines, and it's running all the time. In a lot of ways, these computers in the future will be in an AI factory.
Right.
And there's a new factory that is being created right now. There's a new industry that's being created right now. It's called AI.
Right. But there is the other side of the coin. We hosted Brad Smith from Microsoft, I don't know, a few weeks ago, and they released a report on AI generated content, the implications for kids and others and so forth. So, yeah. What about that, keeps you up at night piece of it, the darker side of AI? How do you think of that?
Well, it's going to take AI to catch the darker side of AI.
Sure.
And the reason for that is pretty clear. AI is going to be producing fake data and false information at very high speeds. And so it has to take somebody with very high speeds to detect that and to shut it down.
Higher speeds.
That's right, exactly. And so I think this is very similar to cybersecurity. You're almost every single company in every single country is being hacked and attacked at almost all times.
Right.
And so it's going to take even better cybersecurity to defend ourselves. And so I think we just have to make sure that we stay ahead, applying this technology and advancing it further for some of the most challenging and pressing issues of our time, whether it's digital biology or healthcare, is some of our best futures. I can't imagine what we're going to be like in 10 years, frankly.
Yeah.
And when we apply artificial intelligence to the field of biology, and for us to move beyond calling it life sciences to life engineering, just like we do. And for us to be able to understand biology the way we understand many other fields of science would be incredible. And so I think that's probably our single greatest potential of helping and working on it.
We want to maximize the benefit of this most powerful technology. This is the most powerful technology that will be invented in our lifetimes. It's as important as electricity and heating and air conditioning and things like that, the automobile, maybe more so, because it's intelligence that humans can use, abuse, and so forth and so on. And furthermore, it's intelligence that's available to everyone. So it's extraordinarily powerful. We have to, and we say this over and over again, we have to do this respecting human values, human dignity. And because these systems are non-human, they don't necessarily have our morals, our restraints, our religions, and so forth, unless they're forced to do so. So the book is a lot about that. And we actually start with the discussion of polymaths. And it turns out that if you look at human history, a small number of individuals, Einstein, Leonardo da Vinci, these sorts of people, really initiated whole new waves of invention and thought and so forth. So now we have a scenario where in the next few years, every human on the planet will have access to a polymath. So this means that when you go to the museum, you'll have Leonardo da Vinci to tell you, well, your brush strokes weren't so good and I did a better job, and that kind of stuff, which is sort of humorous and interesting. But it also empowers bad state actors. There's another aspect of this that's important to resolve the tension. So you obviously have to worry about that. It looks to me, and I'll say this very directly, this is a race between the US and China. Both countries have a willingness, a goal, a national policy. They have the capital, they have the energy, and they have the people at scale that almost no other country has. That fight is the epic fight. As you know, in the US, we've been trying to slow China down a bit. It's been somewhat successful, but not hugely successful. And China is doubling down. They've recently now brought out models that are analogous or similar to the best models in America, which was shocking to me. The competition is important because as you get closer and closer to general intelligence, you can build your own AI scientists. And if you add more, you have human scientists and AI scientists, you can supercharge and get there so much faster.
I think that the upsides here are tremendous. The opportunity for everyone on Earth to have a better quality education than basically anyone can get today. That seems like really important, and that'd be a bad thing to stop. Medical care and what's I think going to happen there, and making that available like truly globally. That's going to be transformative. The scientific progress we're going to see. I'm a big believer that like real sustainable improvements in quality of life come from scientific and technological progress, and I think we're going to have a lot more of that. So there are all the obvious benefits, and I think it'd be good to end poverty. Like maybe you think we should stop a technology that can do that. I personally don't. But we got to manage through the risk to get there. I also think at this point, given how much people see the economic benefits and potential, no company could stop it. But global regulation, which I only think should be on these like powerful existential risk level systems. Global regulation is hard, and you don't want to overdo it for sure. But I think global regulation can help make it safe, which is a better answer than stopping it. I also don't think stopping it would work.
In 2018, that's the last time I believe we talked in person, you told me you thought AI would help us be our best, but also stop our worst impulses. What makes you confident about that? Because so many times, time and time again, it feels like technology has only amplified our worst. What are we all going to do when we have nothing to do?
Talk about Elon and Zuck. I didn't guess. I don't know. No, I don't think we ever run out of things to do. I think it's like deeply in our nature to want to create, to want to be useful, to want to like feel the fulfillment of doing something that matters. And if you talk to people from thousands of years ago, hundreds of years ago even, the work that we do now would have seemed, unimaginable at best and probably like trivial. This is like not directly necessary for our survival in the sense of like creating food or whatever. And this shift happens with every technological revolution, every time we worry about what people are going to do on the other side, and every time we find things. And I suspect not only will this time not be an exception to that, the things we find will be better and more interesting and more impactful than ever before. Like, there are a lot of people that talk about AI as like the last technological revolution. I suspect that, from the other side, it'll look like the first. Like the other stuff will be so small in comparison. I think the whole thing of like technological revolutions is sort of dumb because my understanding has always been it's just one long continuous one. But it is this continuing exponential. And so what will be enabled and the stuff we can't even imagine on the other side, we will have way too much to do. If you want to just sit around and do nothing, that'll be fine too.
All right. Bonbons and beaches in my future.
I don't think that's what you'll turn out to want. But if you do, great.
You talked about AIs designing other AIs on the tour. Can you play that out for us and the implications of that?
Yeah, I mean, this is like the classic sci-fi idea that, at some point, these systems can help progress themselves, can discover better architectures, can help write their own code. I think we're a ways away from that, but it is worth paying attention to.
What would your kind of observation be on AI and the impact on labor markets and people's jobs, and how they should feel about that as they think about this?
Well, I think we are seeing the most disruptive force in history here. Where we will have for the first time something that is smarter than the smartest human. And that, it's hard to say exactly what that moment is, but there will come a point where no job is needed. You can have a job if you want to have a job for sort of personal satisfaction, but the AI will be able to do everything. So I don't know if that makes people comfortable or uncomfortable. That's why I say if you wish for a magic genie, that gives you any wishes you want, and there's no limit. You don't have those three wish limits. One of the challenges in the future will be, how do we find meaning in life if you have a magic genie that can do everything you want? I do think it's hard. When there's new technology, it tends to usually follow an S-curve. In this case, we're going to be on the exponential portion of the S-curve for a long time, and we have to be able to ask for anything. It won't be, we won't have universal basic income. We'll have universal high income. So in some sense, it'll be somewhat of a leveler or an equalizer, because really, I think everyone will have access to this magic genie. If you haven't seen Jensen's talk, it's excellent. And it really shows how much AI is advancing. And it's advancing on the hardware front, on the software front, in terms of data. There's like the new sort of thing is synthetic data, because we've actually run out of all the books, and you literally run out of, you take the entire internet and all books ever written, and all interesting videos, like you don't need 1,000 cat videos that are exactly the same, but all the interesting videos. And you sort of distill that down into tokens, essentially bits of information. And we've now exhausted all of basically the cumulative sum of human knowledge has been exhausted in AI training. That happened basically last year. And so the only way to then supplement that is with synthetic data, where the AI it'll sort of write an essay, or it'll come up with a thesis, and then it will grade itself, and sort of go through this process of self-learning with synthetic data, or humanoid robots. So I think probably most people, if not everyone, would like to have their own personal C-3PO R2-D2, and I actually think humanoid robots will be the biggest product ever in history by far.
I agree.
Yeah, it's just wild, because you can just say, well, every human is going to want one, most likely, and some will want two, and then there'll be all of industry in terms of providing products and services. So that you have to say, what's the ratio of humanoid robots to humans? My guess is it's at least 3 to 1, 4 to 1, maybe 5 to 1. So we're talking about 20, 30 billion humanoid robots, it's not even clear what money means at that point, or if there's any meaningful cap on the economy. I think at that point, assuming that things haven't gone awry, in the good AI scenario, I think we won't have universal basic income. We'll have universal high income. I'm actually pretty optimistic about the next 4 or 5 years. I think we have the potential for a golden age. So we need to. It's very important to get rid of the mountain of regulations that are holding things back. And I don't mean there's some good regulations, but there's just so much that we just can't get anything done. I mean, I think AI and robotics is going to lead to a higher standard of living for people beyond what they can imagine. So
Well,
I think you're going to have AI doctors in medicine that are pretty incredible. So
if all the robots and everything frees up time for humans, what is it they will do with that time? Or what can we ask them to do with that time? And I think that's a question that rounds out the circle of technology.
yeah, I guess it would be a bit like being retired. I mean, this will take a few years, but at some point, if as AI and robotics get better, eventually AI will be able to do everything that humans can do. So any task you do will be optional. Like it'll be like a hobby or, now it does beg the question. Well, will our lives have meaning if the computers and the robots can do everything better than we can? And that is a real question. I do wonder about that myself, and that's why we need the Neuralink, so we can enhance human capabilities, so we can keep up with the machine. Yeah,